Hello my lovely people, welcome back to yet another video. How delicious do these ribs look, right? So let's get to making them. I have 3 stacks of baby pork ribs. They're very nice and soft. And so for our first, we're going to rinse them. They're nicely thawed out. Don't use frozen meat. Please ensure your meat is at room temperature. Rinse. You're going to rinse it and tap it dry. Also, a very important step as well. So once your meat is completely tapped dry, I mean, it won't get totally dry, as in it's just removing the excess water. You know, once you rinse meat, there's just too much water. So we have our wet ingredients, or rather our wet rub and our dry rub. Usually we start with our dry rub. In there I've mixed black pepper, chilies, and paprika. So that's what I'll be using overall to just marinate the meat. We're also going to have salt, then mustard, and lastly we're going to have Worcestershire sauce. You can also use soy sauce if you don't have Worcestershire. Soy works just fine. So you start with a dry rub. Usually the wet rub helps you rub in your dry rub, but you just want to first sprinkle it all over your meat before you start. You go in with your wet rub. So let's get to marinating. To be honest, marinating is a labor of love. You have to be quite patient with the meat as well, because you want to get every wingi uko ndani ya nyama. You know, like you want your meat to completely soak in the marinade. That's why even as you sprinkle, you're going to use your wet rub to rub in the meat. You're like massaging your marinade inside your meat. It's a labor of love, I won't even lie. And so, I mean, when you have 3 stacks of rib, that's easy. When you have like 10, Lord, tutashinda hapo. But you have to do it. I mean, food, you cook with your soul. You put your heart out into the food and everybody's happy, right? So I'm going to go in with the Worcestershire sauce. It's lighter, so it's easier to use. Just rub in every single side. And then the mustard, do the same thing. And lastly, the salt. Just be sure to not put too much salt. Okay, now that we have checked ourselves of having not put too much salt into our meat, we're done. What we're going to do is now cover the meat with a cling foil. So I put my meat in my casserole dish because that's what I intend to bake it. That's what I intend to bake it in. I don't want to keep transferring it from here to there, so I'm going to marinate it, let it marinate in the same dish, and still cook it in the same dish. It's atuacha tukiosha vyombo, as in. So cover tightly and put it in the fridge. 3 to 4 hours is fine, but if you have overnight, even better. Now our meat is perfectly marinated. It almost looked cooked. It almost looks cooked. Ay, kizungu yawa. It almost looks cooked. Low-key. So I'm adding a cup of hot water. It's totally hot water into the casserole dish. So this is a way to sort of steam the meat and prevent it from burning. You're not adding too much, just enough to cover the base of your dish. And wow, this is a trick I was so glad to learn. I mean, guys, you have no idea, because if you put the meat in dry, so there's one thing, you can put in the meat without covering it. Sasa hapo utakula tu kuni, like I won't even lie to you. But once you've covered your meat and then added that hot water, okay, you could add cold, but since you're putting the meat into an already hot oven, I mean, it's only right to put everything hot. So I prefer to add hot water. Don't put too much though, just enough to cover the base. And also ensure that you cover your meat with a foil. So cover tightly once you're done adding your water. I had to go fix my foil, but cover it tightly, and in it goes into the oven. We're cooking this at 300 degrees for 1.5 hours. You could do 2, but seeing as they're baby ribs, 1.5 hours is fine. And drum rolls, our ribs are cooked. And here they are, hot. Oh, look at that. So see, there's liquid at the bottom of the pan. I mean, it's oil from the meat as well, liquid from the meat, as well as our water. Our water pretty much evaporated, but under different circumstances, I mean, if we did not add the water, our pan would be black at the bottom. The meat doesn't really burn, but what it does is the burnt juices from the meat at the bottom then transfer that flavor into the meat, so you don't have burnt meat, but it tastes burnt. And then sometimes it could also be burnt as well, it'll stick at the bottom, so that's why we add the water. Now it's time to add our barbecue sauce. This is honestly the best part about making these ribs for me. So for my barbecue sauce, I'm using, in a bowl I've just added barbecue sauce, juice. I use tropical juice, just a little bit, like 1 shot of tropical juice, and chilies, the chilies powder. You can use lime juice as well. I mean, I just don't like the lime juice that much, so I prefer either pineapple or tropical juice. So have you seen how it's hot, so it was kind of hard to pull out, but it's just peeling off the bone. This meat is just good, and the water really makes the meat so much softer. You have no idea. Like, just please don't skip the adding water part, so important. So I mean, just add your marinade. It's lighter than it normally would if you don't add the juice or any type of liquid. Oh, sorry, I also added honey. So it's honey, tropical juice, barbecue sauce, just store-bought barbecue sauce, and the chilies powder. That's what I'm using. You can skip the juice, it's pretty optional. The honey and the barbecue sauce and the chilies, if you want the meat a bit on the hot side, you can add your chilies, and you can skip them as well. So what you're now going to do is to put the meat back into the oven and covered. That's when they're going to caramelize. And ta-da! Oh my god, I'm hungry looking at this. I made this, but it's just making me hungry. Look at that. Just the way that butter knife is slicing through that meat, it's really tasty. This is my best meal to make. I really enjoy making these ribs. Look at how soft they are. I mean, I couldn't touch them because they're really hot. You can almost see the smoke. But I really hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will definitely catch you on the next one. Bye!